I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God
you.
bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. Such an honor for you to be here with us today. It is also such an honor to have our dear friend Daniel Guerra on the show today. Daniel is an advocate for the LGBTQIA plus community. He's also a progressive pastor and influencer and so much more, worship leader. What else can I add to the list? But it's such an honor to meet you this way. I told him I got acquainted with him through um, his interview with Bishop Jim Swiller, which who we all love and admire. And I told him I wanted to bring him on the show to kind of talk about who he is, his ministry, his life, his vision for the future, and so forth. So, Daniel, thank you so much for participating in this interview today.
Oh, Brother Henry, thank you so much for asking me to be a part. So many people got acquainted with me through that interview. So thank you for following my ministry and asking me to be a part of your podcast.
Well, it's an honor it's an honor to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How were you raised? Were you raised in church? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I am I'm PK through and through. And those of you who don't know what PK is, I'm a preacher's kid. My dad was an independent, fundamental, rigid, frigid, frozen, chosen Baptist.
Ooh.
And and I've been, church life, church world is everything that I know. I mean, I feel like I'm sitting in my guest bedroom at my desk, and I can still smell those old wooden pews, and those hymn books, that we would sing out of. But the challenge was being raised in a Christian fundamental home. Home life wasn't the safest. I don't know how much you want to know, but a home was
Sure, whatever you wish.
Home was just an abusive home. My grandfather, who basically ran our family, he sexually assaulted me as a kid, had kids from his own kids. And so though I lived a very sheltered Christian life behind closed doors, was just really ugly. And so as I got older, I left home and ended up, living my own life, finishing high school on my own, going to college on my own. And I went to school trying to educate myself on everything that I knew, and that was becoming a pastor, being a leader, but struggling with something that I was always raised to believe I couldn't be, and ended up going through all kinds of inner healing, deliverance sessions. It was brutal. Let me just say that. I mean, though I appreciate my upbringing and being raised in the Christian home, it was so dysfunctional. I didn't know if the God that I believed in really was the God that I should be serving. But I definitely knew how to wear a mask and live life the best that I know how to live, and practice and be, fake it till I make it, if you will. I lived that life ever since I could, basically have to do all this stuff on my own, until faith in God became real to me. And when it did, it was a wake up call. And I started having to really process, I think, the dark sides of life. And all of that's gotten me to a place to where I do ministry today from an authentic place.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Just to be clear, you referred to going through different sessions and deliverance. What was that in regards to?
Sure. I, in the Christian world, those who identify as LGBTQIA, um, they struggle with, homosexuality or
I
same-sex
I,
attraction.
I like how you did this.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, there's that terminology in the Christian circle, especially in evangelicalism, Protestant evangelicalism. Those who wrestle with same-sex attraction, or what they call SA, or I know it is just being gay. It's we are told that that's not God's best for our life, and we need to try to find healing. And so I spent about a decade of my life going through reparative therapy programs, inner healing, deliverance sessions, exorcisms, shock treatments. Like, I wanted the gay to be gone.
Mhm.
And I was going to go to the extensive lengths to get it done because I wanted to be accepted by God, loved by God, and I definitely wanted to be accepted by my family. And if I didn't take those necessary steps to try to rid the gay, then unfortunately I was going to be excommunicated from the church world, church life, which included my family. And unfortunately, I still have family to this day that have excommunicated me, that won't even talk to me because I'm considered in their world to be, a sodomite. So yeah, I
Um,
that was a journey of my life that took a major detour, but I'm so glad that I spent a decade of my life going through that, because I think without that season of my life, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, and sorry to hear about your molestation as well. You have my sympathy in that, and empathy in that area. Um, I think it's a beautiful thing that like I said, people will excommunicate from you, your family, your friends. I've known some gay people who were kicked out of their Christian homes because it was such frowned upon. But today, I see so many ministries, such as yourself, where you can still authentically be yourself and gay. And it's like, uh, and I'm not saying this in an insensitive way, but it's almost like uh, getting to a place where we really don't care what other people think anymore. Like, if they have the right to live their life and do what they do, surely you have the right to live your life, and you're just as precious and anointed and powerful just as they are. It's just that you're different from them, or at least that's how they see it. So I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. I think you're going to impact the world in such even a greater way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's go a little bit into your ministry. What inspired you to start a ministry? I know you say you was raised in a Christian home. You're a
Sure.
preacher's kid. So what inspired you to start a ministry?
Brother Henry, I'm very passionate about my love for Jesus, and Carlton Pearson. I don't know if you're familiar with him,
Oh yeah,
but
he's been on the show before.
okay, Carlton Pearson is someone that I used to. My grandmother was Holiness Pentecostal. My dad was very anti-charismatic Pentecostal, and I, as a musician, I would listen to Pentecostal music, Pentecostal worship. I went to Christ for the Nations Institute in Dallas, Texas,
Mhm.
which is a charismatic, Assemblies of God Bible school. It's where I studied to become a minister, to become a worship minister, pastor, teacher, etc. Um, and I started working in ministry following, finishing school. Um, the challenge was anytime that I would talk about my personal struggles, the church immediately we could talk about my personal struggles having same-sex attraction, but when the rubber met the road and it was time for them to support me and back me up in the midst of my struggle, when it got too hard, it was as though I was on a contract and my contract was going to come to an end, and it was time to go ahead and just push me off and move me into a different area of ministry, meaning a whole new church. And the cycle would happen over and over and over again. And I would just go from one church to another church. And I remember following Carlton Pearson through his years before he embraced the theology of inclusion. And I remember how I saw how the Pentecostal movement embraced him as this icon of hope who was going to bring revival amongst African American people. And this is my life. If you've heard me sing, I've got some soul in me,
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm a part of this world. And when I saw how the church, literally visually saw how the church addressed him, when he started asking legitimate questions, I thought he was so brave because he was asking questions that I had been asking myself. And in the church, if I get emotional, please forgive me,
It's all right.
because I'm so passionate about this. Working in the church and seeing how the church minimized gay people, even myself, where there was room for everybody. But when you would identify yourself as one of those people, the way the limitations, the way the guidelines, the restrictions would be placed before you or on you, it almost made you feel like something was wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just this shame ideology that makes you feel like I need to get fixed and I must not be good enough. I must not be qualified enough. And I just saw people that I would invite to church that would get mistreated time and time again. And I started taking it personal, because at this point I'm working for ministries, working for churches who know internally that I'm gay. They know that I have same-sex attraction. They're okay with me admitting it to them privately. And I'm inviting, because of who I am, gay people are drawn, especially those who want to embrace God, they're drawn to organizations that I partner with. And so they would come and want to be a part of the ministry. And I just saw how they were mistreated. And I felt like I was to blame for hurting my community.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to create a safe place for my people. And I launched an organization called Bridge of Hope in South Texas. And I remember having lunch with my friends who wouldn't tell me that they were gay, wouldn't tell me that they were a couple. And they kept on saying that they were best friends like Jonathan and David,
Yeah.
which was, Brother Henry, that was my cue. I'm like, girl, listen, I already know. They finally looked at each other, and I remember this like it was yesterday. They looked at each other, and then they looked back at me. And I just remember these words that were said in that meeting. They looked at each other and they said, whew.
Yeah, take your time.
They said, I think he's safe. I think we could tell him.
Wow, that's powerful.
And so they said, we're a couple. And I looked at them and I said, what if we created a space for people just like us,
Mm-hmm.
people who love Jesus, who love God, but you don't have to hide who you are. Like, these guys were two of the most remarkable, loving, kind, precious humans on the planet. Like, they could make anyone feel so much love, but yet they were so mistreated because people knew just by, you hang around. Listen, I always say we know our people,
Yeah.
hang around folks like us, and you're like, okay, girl, you wanted me, you a queen, girl, you a queen, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like I knew that they knew that I was, but we were so scared to verbalize it because we knew that if we verbalized it, we would get shunned. If we say the right words, if we use Christianese language and say, I'm struggling, but I believe that God can heal me, it's a complete different story. Churches will accept you and let you participate from a different they'll let you participate differently. But man, the moment that you just tell them that you're gay, it's the same thing as saying I struggle. The difference is I'm not struggling to be gay. I'm struggling to be myself.
Yeah.
You know,
I think before we get to the last question, it just dawned on me. You've used that word struggle a few times, and I've had people come to me personally and say, brother Henry, like you did earlier. I'm struggling with, um, being gay. I have attractions towards the same sex or whatnot, but I'm not acting on it. I'm not doing it, but I know that it's there. Is it really a struggle, or is it just something that they refuse to accept, especially those in the Christian community? It's almost like suppression, like let's keep it quiet, keep it down, let's sweep it under the rug. It's just a struggle, but is it really a struggle, or is it just something that you feel like, not you personally, but uh, do, uh, do you feel like it's a struggle for some people, or is that even the right word?
I think that's a great question. I'm very confident with who I am now. I think for the longest time, it was easy for me to refer to the struggle because I think we're brainwashed in the Christian culture to identify it, meaning my attraction to other men, as a struggle because that's not God's ordained plan. But
Hmm.
the reality is that those that identify it as a struggle, you're not bad. God's not mad. He wants to partner with us in our journey as humans, and he wants to journey alongside us, helping us understand the beauty of who we are. And Zephaniah 3:17 says that God, the divine, smiles over each and every one of us, and he dances over us with incredible delight. Do you realize that me, as a fierce gay, as I say now, good Christian woman of God, you know, how much God celebrates me? Like
Hmm.
he smiles over me, he dances over me. We are divine humans that were created in his image. And it's unfortunate that people still address it, especially in the Christian circle. And it's prominent. It's still happening today. There's churches that still recommend that their parishioners, their members who have same sex attraction, identify it as a struggle. It's not a struggle to be gay. It's not a struggle to be attracted to the same sex. It's a struggle to identify as being okay with yourself and God,
Hmm.
because that's the real struggle. The real struggle is, how do I find peace and happiness with me, myself, and the divine? Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And I was also thinking about so many ministries that are so homophobic and anti-gay. And I'm like, if you got a pastor and that's all he's talking about, like, to me, I'm a little I don't know how you feel about it, Danny, but I'm a little suspicious because I was raised in church where, and I've seen male pastors stand in the pulpit and demonstrate it and say very vulgar things. I'm like, he knows a lot about what gay people do in the bedroom. Why is he ain't preaching the Bible? So, and that still happens today. And they say, um, you always got to watch the ones who screams the loudest. And
I, I look at them and go, Hernty.
yeah.
I mean, let's be real. But way too much about that.
Yeah. Or they're so against gay people, they don't realize that a lot of our musicians, a lot of the Christian music we sing today, um, are same gender loving people, but they won't come out and say it. It's a business, you know. They don't want,
Right.
just like we mentioned Bishop Pearson. I mean, he wasn't gay, but he lost everything for saying he
Mhm.
didn't believe in hell anymore. So there's always taking that risk, but it's almost like it's worth it because you get to live your life authentically. And I surely don't think that God looks down and saying, "Oh, I can't use Daniel because he's gay." I mean, that don't even make sense. Or when someone says, talks about deliverance, and I say, okay, if God can deliver gay people, is there a deliverance service for to deliver you from your being heterosexual? And people
Right.
laugh. It's like, now that don't make sense. Now, why would it make sense for somebody who don't identify as heterosexual? So that's a
Right.
that's another whole big subject. But you mentioned some about earlier about deliverance, and I just want the audience to know who may be listening. Like, well, what is he referring to? You know, in regards to that. So, thank you for answering that question. My last question is, um, as it relates to your ministry, what is your message to the world?
That's a great question. You know, uh, I think the message that I want people to hear is that you are crazy loved by God. It's a message that I speak about every single Sunday as a pastor in my community, as a online pastor, as an influencer. Like, I want you to know that you're so crazy loved, and that there's nothing that you can do, say, act upon, be, dress like that would ever change the way God loves you. God is so crazy about you. Um, I want people to know that love. Whether you're gay, straight, bi, trans, Christian, Buddhist, atheist, pagan, I want you to know that there's nothing that can separate you from that love. And my prayer and my hope is that wherever you are, whether you're watching this in the moment or whether you're watching this later during the week, whenever you are engaged, my prayer is that you would know that the divine, the presence of God, Jesus, is for you and not against you, and that you can discover peace and hope, kindness and love in Him.
Well, Daniel, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the person you have become and the person you are becoming and evolving into as well. Your worship, I watched some of them. I don't know if they're on Tuesday nights, but I'll let you talk about that here in a second. How people can watch you and the things that you do, how they can participate. But it's so authentic, it's so real. It's almost like I mean, you're not just singing, but you can actually feel it. And you really do touch the heavens with your worship, with your preaching. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. Um, I think you're such an amazing person.
And Brother Henry, thank you so much. That really means a lot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you too. As we go to a close, can you tell people how they can follow you on social media?
Yeah. Listen, I am very, very active on all platforms, whether you're on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, but my main platform is Facebook. You can tune in every Monday night at 7:30. I do enlightened conversations with Pastor Daniel, where I take 45 minutes and I'll interview different guests, or I just basically have 30 to 40 minutes where I spend an enlightened conversation talking about faith, inspiration, hope, and love. You can also find me on Wednesday nights right there on my Facebook page, where I spend about 30 to 40 minutes in worship with just me on a keyboard. I call it uncensored worship because I might start singing songs of the Lord, prophetic singing. You might hear me even sing songs in the Spirit. It truly is an uncensored moment. And then I take time to prophetically pray over people and encourage you with scripture. And then every Sunday, you can tune in to Unity Church and Spiritual Center in Urbana, Illinois, where I help lead and pastor this small but vibrant, inclusive community. And I speak. It's an entire service for an hour at 11 a.m. on Sunday. So you can catch me throughout the week. I'm very active. I hope to see you there. Let me know where you're watching from, and I'll shout you out.
Amazing. Make sure you connect with Daniel today. I believe that your world will be revolutionized. Thank you for watching. Make sure you connect with us at youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. Also follow us on Soul TV, which is reaching thousands of people, /Facebook.com, or you can follow our fan page, The Brother Henry and You Show, on Facebook. Till next time, we'll see you next week. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God bless
you.
you too. Thank you for having us.